Rove, the architect behind George W. Bush's White House, is out with a new book. It is called Courage and Consequence: My Life as a Conservative in the Fight. Rove offers an unflinching defense of the Bush presidency, including the decision to go to war in Iraq and take out Saddam Hussein.
You can go back and try and rewrite history, but at that moment, we as a nation were faced with the belief that he had WMD, that he was a threat to the stability of the region, and in the aftermath of 9/11, the calculus changed.
Rove also says Bush did not lie about Iraq. But fact checkers say it's Rove who's rewriting history, using 500 pages to spin and revise history on some of the most controversial moments of the Bush presidency. Joining us now is David Corn, the Washington bureau chief of Mother Jones. He has written his own book on the Bush presidency called The Lies of George W. Bush. Also with us, Brad Blakeman, a former member of President Bush's senior staff. He served as deputy assistant to the president. David, let's start with you. Karl Rove says George W. Bush did not lie about Iraq. Your take?
Well, the Bush campaign, the Bush administration that Karl Rove was part of, put together a willful campaign of misrepresentation. I would love to sit down with Karl Rove. Maybe you can arrange that for another show, David, and go through quotes from the Bush administration from those days. What they did two things. They overstated iffy intelligence. The intelligence at the time was uncertain on many fronts, but Bush and Dick Cheney again and again said there was no doubt about the intelligence, no doubt that Saddam Hussein was looking for uranium in Niger, no doubt that aluminum tubes he had purchased were for an enrichment process that would lead to nuclear weapons.
Well,
actually, but there was plenty of doubt within the intelligence community
let's
itself.
in fact put some of these quotes on the screen, and Brad will have you in the role of trying to defend this. George W. Bush, March 17th. Intelligence gathered by this and other governments leaves no doubt that the Iraq regime continues to possess and conceal some of the most lethal weapons ever devised. Dick Cheney, August 2002, simply stated there's no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There's no doubt he's amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us. There was plenty of doubt, and yet Karl Rove says Bush Cheney did not lie about Iraq. What is Karl Rove doing?
Karl Rove is telling the truth. First of all, we know that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. He used it against the Kurds. He killed thousands of his own countrymen.
And that was 15 years before this.
At the time.
But he had it, and he was preventing people. David, wait a second. He was preventing inspectors from coming in and inspecting the sites that the UN demanded be inspected.
No, he wasn't. The inspectors were in. Wait a second, David. Don't let that go by. Do not let that go by. Brad, that is not true.
Brad,
it is true. Brad, it's not true.
You're talking about a different time period. At the time, the inspectors were going in before the war in 2003. They could not find any evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and the intelligence community made it very clear that there was significant doubts. Dick Cheney said there was no doubt.
They were not denied access.
And it is true, David, it is true that Saddam Hussein violated at least 15 separate Security Council resolutions. Yes, the intelligence was flawed. We admit the intelligence was flawed.
You go a lot farther than Karl Rove did in his book. So, David Corn, what is Karl Rove after?
Well, wait a second. Let me just bring up some other examples here. George W. Bush said that Saddam Hussein was dealing with al-Qaeda. According to the 9/11 Commission, there was no intelligence showing that. So how did Bush get that fact? He was making it up. He also said that the UN inspectors had found in 1998 that Saddam Hussein was 6 months away from nuclear weapons. What did the UN inspectors say? They said there was no such report.
The case is clear that Karl Rove is revising history. What's his motive here?
What's his motive? I think he realizes that most of the public now believes that the Bush administration greased the way to war with misrepresentations and, if not, outright lies. And he's going to go down on the wrong side of history, and David, he's trying to spin against that.
You have to spin your book, which was an attack on the Bush administration, and Karl Rove is defending the policies of a Bush White House that he was part of as a member of the senior staff.
There are facts here,
There were intelligence failures. There were failures that were reported not only to the White House, to Congress, and to our allies.
There are undeniable facts that Karl Rove gets wrong in this book. Why go there? Why would Karl Rove? He provides plenty of anecdotes that are interesting. His book is a fascinating book to read. But for him to say President Bush did not lie when it's so clear, when George W. Bush says intelligence gathered by this and other governments leaves no doubt that the Iraq regime, there was plenty of doubt.
This is what he relied on from the intelligence
George W. Bush, Dick Cheney had plenty of doubt in front of them.
The point is,
President Bush did not bring us into this war because of WMD. He brought us into the war because Saddam Hussein failed to allow inspections of the sites that the UN demanded be inspected.
You're absolutely wrong. The inspectors were in. They were in for months before the war. I'll bet you $1,000 right now. $1,000. The inspectors were there.
Take him up on it, Brad. Take
Come
him
on,
up. Take him up on the
$1,000 in front of the
Your
innocent
argument that
audience.
inspectors were not there.
Come on,
inspectors were not allowed into the inspection site that were demanded by the UN.
Take the bet. The inspectors were there. They were saying that they couldn't find evidence of nukes. They were there. Al Baradi was there releasing a report every couple of weeks. Just come on, take the bet.
We'll verify this, but I think, Brad, I think you now owe David Corn $1,000 because the inspectors were removed because George W. Bush told them to get out. But we're going to verify this. We're going to have both of you back on, and we're going to settle our bet.
Please, I could use the money.
Brad Blakeman owes David Corn $1,000.
Come on, Brad.
Blakeman and David Corn, thank you both so much.
Thank you.